Unit 1.11 Personal Data Protection Act. This section covers the Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA law and NUS regulations, as well as using MySurvey and operations. The Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA in short, came into force in July 2014. This act essentially governs the collection, use, disclosure, and care of personal data. What is personal data? It refers to data about an individual who can be identified from the data. This is regardless of whether or not the information is true. Personal data information includes the name of the individual, identification number, matriculation number, home address, email address, and contact number, etc. NUS has set up a Data Protection Office, or DPO in short. This office oversees and governs how personal data is managed in NUS. This includes the three broad areas: the collection and usage of personal data, sharing of personal data with internal and external organizations, as well as storage and updating of personal data. All NUS offices and student groups are required to abide with the PDPA guidelines stipulated by the DPO. The office also assists in addressing concerns and clarifying how personal data can be collected, shared, and used in the NUS context. The Do Not Call registry came into effect on 2nd January 2014. An individual may access the DNC website to register the telephone number on the DNC registry. By registering, it means that any organization or service provider will not be allowed to contact the individual via phone call, fax, and/or text messages to promote their services or product according to what was opted out by the individual. This is applicable to NUS as well. With the implementation of the DNC registry, student organizations or NUS officers are not allowed to send marketing messages via phone calls, text messages, or fax without the authorization by the DPO. With the implementation of the PDPA, all student groups can no longer collect personal data without relevant PDPA clauses in place. It is important to obtain the consent from the individual before the collection of personal data. Each student group is required to appoint a data protection officer within the management committee to oversee the data management by the group. This individual should be familiar with the updates or changes on PDPA guidelines by the NUS officers. He or she should also attend the PDPA trainings that are conducted by the DPO and ensure that the student group abides with these guidelines. In your event registration forms, you should state the specific purpose and use for data collection, request for consent from the individual, as well as include avenues for the withdrawal of consent. In addition, there should not be any sharing of personal data with third parties unless consent is given by the individual. With the implementation of the PDPA, NUSU and constituent clubs and interest groups are required to make use of the NUS online survey platform MySurvey to collect personal data for all student activities. Student societies registered with the Registry of Societies have an option of using alternative platforms for data collection. Student groups are required to obtain approval from their staff advisor prior to publishing the MySurvey. All student groups are required to indicate the PDPA clauses, including the purpose, consent, and avenue for withdrawal of consent in the MySurvey for data collection. A sample text for purpose and consent is included in this slide. This slide shows the sample text for withdrawal of consent that should be inserted towards the end of the survey. NUS student groups are required to use the MySurvey account. They may follow the process below to obtain their accounts. Firstly, the student group will need to appoint up to 2 new PDPA officers and MySurvey account holders within the management committee. Secondly, both the PDPA officer and MySurvey account holder will need to sign the letter of undertaking for data management and submit it to the OSA staff in charge. On the letter, the account holders will need to provide their NUS student email. A new account will be created for groups without an existing account. A notification email will be sent out by the MySurvey system to the student's NUS email. MySurvey account holders are required to log in within the next 24 hours to change the password. If your group already has an account, the current account holder has to hand over the username and password to the newly appointed account holder. As part of the handover process, the new account holder will have to log in, change the password, and update the NUS student email under the account. Should students be working with collaborating partners, consent must be given by the individual before they may share the personal data. Sharing of data with third parties such as sponsors, service providers, or irrelevant parties are strictly not allowed. For the retention of data, student groups are required to remove personal data from their databases 1 month after the event. All documents containing personal data should be encrypted with password. All hard copies collected should be filed and logged for security purposes.